1. The Salt Path Controversy, Truth Behind Raynor Winn's Journey. 2. Salt Path Controversy, Producers Address Book Truth Claims, Movie Scandal Explained. 3. The Salt Path Controversy, Did Raynor Winn Mislead Readers? Author's Defense Explained. 4. The Real Salt Path, Uncovering the Truth Behind the Lies. 5. The Truth Behind the Salt Path, Fact versus Fiction in Raynor Winn's Bestseller. 1. The Salt Path Controversy, Truth Behind Raynor Winn's Journey. The Salt Path Backlash, Raynor Winn's novel adapted into star-studded film appended in exposé. The author of best-selling non-fiction book The Salt Path woke up to shocking claims published over the weekend. In March 2018, the book, based on true events according to its writer, detailed how her husband, Moth, and his wife, Sally, survived a home repossessed after investing in a friend's business. This tale of perseverance and kindness has sold over 2 million copies since March 2018. The novel follows the couple's penniless trek along the British coast, depicting their survival despite hardship. An adaptation of The Salt Path *, starring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs, https://www.hollywoodreporter.com/movies/Jason-Isaacs-interview-Gillian-Anderson-the-salt-path-12359999629, was released earlier this year in UK theatres and portrayed Moth's diagnosis of a debilitating neurological illness, which Winn claimed was alleviated by the expedition. Isaacs told The Hollywood Reporter when the movie debuted last year, "When you see a story about people who survive almost all the worst things you could possibly imagine, and they survive spiritually as well, it's a reminder, maybe more palatable than actually having any of this awful stuff happen to you yourself, of the things that are important to life." However, on Saturday, an investigation by UK outlet The Observer spotlighted damaging claims from those who knew the couple, whose real names are allegedly Sally and Tim Walker. Raynor Winn had previously stated she and Moth lost their home after investing in a friend's business, but an ex-co-worker revealed they were guilty of defrauding their former employer of £64,000, $87,000, and loaning £100,000, $136,000 from a relative to avoid a criminal charge. They also faced a £230,000 mortgage on their farmhouse in Wales, with the loss of their home due to a relative suing them to recover the money. The media frenzy surrounding this scandal has drawn significant backlash, as The Observer interviewed medical experts who disputed Moth's diagnosis of corticobasal degeneration, CBD, suggesting it was unlikely given his survival after symptoms first appeared 12 years ago. Social media erupted as readers questioned whether the couple's journey could have been true, sparking a mix of outrage and hope for change. "I nursed my mum through the horrors of corticobasal disease," one reader wrote on X. "I knew from the outset the story in #the Salt Path couldn't be true. But it will have given people false hope, all in pursuit of money." The scandal has prompted widespread debate, prompting many to await responses from actors, directors, and film companies. THR reached out to representatives for the actors and Penguin and Number 9 Films. A BBC film spokesperson declined to comment. In a statement released Sunday, Raynor Winn acknowledged the article's misleading nature. "Today's Observer article is highly misleading. We are taking legal advice and won't be making any further comment at this time." She continued, "The Salt Path lays bare the physical and spiritual journey Moth and I shared, an experience that transformed us completely and altered the course of our lives. This is the true story of our journey." 2. Salt Path Controversy, Producers Address Book Truth Claims, Movie Scandal Explained. In a dramatic turn of events, the producers of the controversial film, The Salt Path, have come forward to address recent allegations. The movie, which has garnered significant attention and controversy, is based on a book of the same name that claims to recount the true story of Raynor and Moth Winn's journey along the south of England coast after losing their home and facing a dire health diagnosis. The producers of The Salt Path stand firm, asserting that they conducted thorough due diligence before acquiring the rights to the book. A spokesperson for Number 9 Films and Shadowplay Features stated, "There were no known claims against the book at the time of auctioning it or producing and distributing the film." This response comes in the wake of a damning investigation by The Observer, which has cast serious doubt on the authenticity of the book's narrative. The Observer's report delves into the background of Raynor Winn, whose real name is Sally Walker, revealing that she was once arrested on accusations of embezzling tens of thousands of pounds from her employer. These allegations are starkly absent from the book, which instead attributes the couple's financial downfall to being exploited by a childhood friend of Winn. The report also disputes the claim that the couple became homeless, suggesting that the reality of their situation was far more complicated. Raynor Winn, through her representative, has labeled the Observer's article highly misleading. She stated, "We are taking legal advice and won't be making any further comment at this time. The Salt Path lays bare the physical and spiritual journey Moth and I shared, an experience that transformed us completely and altered the course of our lives. This is the true story of our journey." Number 9 and Shadowplay have echoed Winn's stance, describing the film as a faithful adaptation of the book that we optioned. They emphasized that we undertook all necessary due diligence before acquiring the book, and noted that the allegations made in The Observer relate to the book and are a matter for the author Raynor Winn. The producers have also forwarded any correspondence related to the article to Winn and her agent. This controversy is particularly embarrassing for the film, which opened in May and has already grossed over $10 million at the UK box office. The movie has yet to premiere in key markets such as Germany and France, and a US distribution deal is reportedly still in negotiation. The fallout from these allegations could have significant implications for the film's future success, especially in international markets. But here's where it gets controversial. While the producers and Raynor Winn maintain their innocence, the detailed and well-sourced nature of the Observer's report raises serious questions about the veracity of the book and the film. What do you think? Should the producers and Raynor Winn be held accountable for these allegations, or is there more to the story that hasn't been told yet? Share your thoughts in the comments. 3. The Salt Path controversy. Did Raynor Winn mislead readers? Author's defense explained. In a dramatic turn of events, author Raynor Winn finds herself defending her integrity against allegations that she has misled readers in her acclaimed book, The Salt Path Star. This best-selling narrative, which was published in 2018 and has recently been adapted into a film, chronicles the journey of a couple who embark on a 630-mile trek along the southwest coast path after losing their home. An investigation conducted by the Observer has raised serious questions about the authenticity of some of Winn's statements regarding her husband's health and the circumstances surrounding their home loss. Winn has vehemently criticized the Observer's article, labeling it as highly misleading, and has indicated that she and her husband are seeking legal counsel, asserting that the book represents the true story of our journey. What is The Salt Path about? Since its release in March 2018, The Salt Path has sold over 2 million copies, and a film adaptation featuring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs premiered earlier this year. In her book, Winn recounts how she and her husband, Moth, faced significant financial turmoil after a poor investment in a friend's business left them responsible for the debts incurred when the venture collapsed. This financial strain ultimately resulted in the loss of their home. At the same time, Moth was diagnosed with corticobasal degeneration, CBD, a condition that typically has a life expectancy of 6 to 8 years. Following their loss of housing and Moth's diagnosis, the couple made the life-altering decision in 2013 to walk the southwest coast path. Winn's narrative details their arduous journey along the entire 630-mile route, where they survived on a modest income from weekly tax credits and camped outdoors each night. The book vividly portrays both the physical challenges and the profound rewards of their trek, as well as the meaningful interactions they had with people they met along the way. The story concludes with the couple receiving a new opportunity for housing, and Winn notes that Moth's health has improved significantly, allowing him to live for 12 years post-diagnosis. Since the release of The Salt Path Winn has authored 2 additional books that explore similar themes of walking, nature, homelessness, and wild camping, with a 4th book set to be published later this year. What does the Observer's investigation allege? The Observer's investigation claims that the couple's home in North Wales was lost not due to a failed business venture, as Winn initially suggested, but rather because she allegedly defrauded her employer of £64,000. To cover this debt, the couple reportedly borrowed £100,000 at an 18% interest rate, secured against their home, which compounded their financial troubles. Additionally, the couple was said to have a £230,000 mortgage on the same property, leading to debts that surpassed the home's value. Their home was subsequently repossessed following legal action to recover the borrowed funds. The investigation also revealed that the couple owned a property in France which had been deemed uninhabitable for some time. Villagers claimed that instead of residing in the house, the couple lived in caravans on the land. Furthermore, medical experts consulted by the *Observer* expressed skepticism regarding Moth's diagnosis of CBD, citing his prolonged survival, absence of severe symptoms, and apparent ability to reverse some of them. Interestingly, it was reported that Raynor and Moth Winn are not their real names. Following the publication of the *Observer* article, the charity PSPA, which supports individuals with CBD and has collaborated with the couple, stated that too many questions currently remain unanswered and decided to end their relationship with them. Winn has also stepped back from the upcoming Salt Lines tour, where she was scheduled to perform readings alongside the Gigspanner Big Band during a series of UK events. Her legal team issued a statement expressing regret for disappointing those who plan to attend, emphasizing that she cannot participate while legal matters are ongoing. ###How has Raynor Winn responded? In a statement released through her literary agents, Winn asserted that the *Observer* article is a highly misleading. She confirmed that they are seeking legal advice and will refrain from further comments at this time. Winn emphasized that the Salt Path reveals the profound physical and spiritual journey she and Moth undertook, an experience that fundamentally transformed their lives. "This is the true story of our journey," she stated. The BBC has reached out to Penguin, the book's publisher, for their perspective. A representative from No. 9 Films and Shadowplay Features, the production company behind the film adaptation, stated that there were no known claims against the book at the time of its optioning or during the film's production and distribution. They described the movie as a faithful adaptation of the book, asserting that they conducted all necessary due diligence before acquiring it. The allegations presented in the *Observer* are considered a matter for Raynor Winn, and the production team has forwarded any correspondence related to the article to her and her agent. The film, which has grossed approximately $16 million, £11.7 million globally, is still awaiting release in Germany and France, with a deal pending in the United States. 4. The Real Salt Path, uncovering the truth behind the lies. Truth, as they say, can set you free, but what if the truth itself is just a beautifully spun illusion? This is the burning question at the heart of the recent furor over the Salt Path, the best-selling memoir hailed as a testament to courage, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit. Millions have been inspired by Raynor Winn's account of walking 630 miles along England's windswept southwest coast path with her husband Moth, after supposedly losing everything to destitution and a devastating medical diagnosis. The journey was so evocative it not only dominated bookshelves but also became a hit film starring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs. But here's where the story takes a dramatic and divisive turn. From the outside, the Salt Path radiates sincerity. Winn and Moth, battered by life's cruelties, trudging through storm and sorrow, emerge as symbols of British pluck. At the film premiere, their triumph was nearly tangible, with Raynor, now in her 60s, glowing on the red carpet, declaring the experience almost unbelievable. But back in rural North Wales, Ros Hemmings sees a disturbing gap between this narrative and reality. She's been waiting years for someone to ask her about the woman she knows as Sally Walker, Raynor Winn's real identity. Hemmings harbors startling claims. She insists that key elements of the Winn's backstory are untrue and, even more shockingly, that Sally Raynor once stole from her family business. This isn't just an obscure accusation. Interviews with several individuals connected to these events, supported by solicitors, police records, and financial documents, reveal a story that diverges dramatically from the public version. In the early 2000s, Sally Walker, as Raynor was known then, worked as a bookkeeper for Hemmings's husband Martin's property firm. Soon, suspicious discrepancies emerged in the accounts. After a painstaking review, Martin discovered thousands missing. Sally, in tears, pleaded to repay the initial sum, and the Hemmingses, hoping to recoup their loss, accepted. But that's not the end, far from it. A deeper audit exposed a much larger sum, believed to total around £64,000, allegedly taken over several years. Police reportedly became involved. Sally was interrogated and released overnight, only to vanish by morning. Meanwhile, she and her husband Tim, who later became a Moth in the memoir, surfaced in London, seeking help from a relative. That relative, James, arranged a loan, ultimately £100,000 secured against the Walkers' house to cover the alleged theft and avoid prosecution, provided Martin agreed to drop criminal charges and sign a non-disclosure agreement. This whole episode shattered my husband, Ros Hemmings recounts, describing how the trust and kindness that defined Martin were undermined. He died a few years later, never knowing his former employee would achieve literary stardom. The Walkers, Sally and Tim, struggled under the weight of debts. When James's own business failed, the loan he'd extended to the Walkers was sold to other creditors, who eventually repossessed their home. Court records show the loan was explicitly granted to settle a criminal allegation made against Mrs. Walker. Yet, in her book and subsequent interviews, Winn describes their eviction as stemming from a naive misjudgment, a failed investment with a friend, rather than disclosing the grim backdrop of financial impropriety. But here's the part most people miss: the Salt Path's emotional core is built around this supposedly catastrophic loss, one portrayed as a cruel twist of fate. For many readers, these details are more than just literary embellishments, they are the foundation of their empathy for Winn and Moth as innocent victims. Does it matter, then, if these facts don't quite align? Some argue that all memoirs blend memory with creative license, that stories evolve in the telling. After all, even the publisher Penguin describes the Salt Path as unflinchingly honest and true. But others see this as a breach of trust. When James Frey's memoir, A Million Little Pieces, was exposed as partly fabricated, readers sued the publisher. Yet, neither Penguin nor the filmmakers behind the Salt Path have responded to calls for clarification. And that's not the only controversy. Public records also show that even after their supposed homelessness, Sally and Tim Walker still owned a property in France, a dilapidated stone house near Bordeaux where they occasionally stayed in caravans. In the Salt Path, Winn claims that after losing their Welsh home, they were left with nothing, forced to wild camp around Britain. So was the reality far less bleak than the memoir suggests? Another question lingers around Moth's health. His diagnosis of corticobasal degeneration, CBD, a rare and terminal neurological illness, forms the emotional crux of all three of Winn's books. Each story begins with Moth debilitated, yet after months of arduous walking, his symptoms miraculously improve, even vanishing entirely by the later volumes. This portrayal has sparked skepticism among 9 neurologists, who find it highly improbable for someone to live so long, or see such dramatic recovery, with CBD. One expert bluntly remarked, his history with CBD does not pass the sniff test. While miracles do sometimes occur, the pattern here raises difficult questions about the boundaries between fact and inspiration in popular memoir. And this is the part that could ignite debate: if stories marketed as true turn out to be partly fiction, does that undermine their value, or can the message still inspire regardless of the details? Do readers feel cheated when the reality doesn't match the narrative? Or is it acceptable if the broader themes, resilience, transformation, hope, ring true? Back in Wales, the real people left in the wake of this story still wrestle with pain and frustration. Ros Hemmings's daughter even used to surreptitiously leave handwritten notes in library copies of the Salt Path, warning potential readers about Sally's past. Meanwhile, the world continues to hail Raynor and Moth as icons of endurance. So here's the debate: should memoirs be held to strict factual standards, especially when they become bestsellers and films? Or is it enough for them to capture emotional truths, even if the details are cloudy or invented? Where do you draw the line between artful storytelling and outright deception? Let us know your thoughts. Does this saga change how you'll read the Salt Path, or do you think the message matters more than the messy reality behind the scenes? 5. The truth behind the Salt Path, fact versus fiction in Raynor Winn's bestseller. No matter what the actual circumstances surrounding the Salt Path may be, it's clear why so many people were eager to embrace its narrative. Was the tale, when viewed with hindsight, perhaps just a tad too perfect? Picture this: a middle-aged couple, facing the harsh realities of bankruptcy and a terminal illness, embark on a transformative journey along the southwest coast path. Along their trek, they find solace in the generosity of strangers. Marketed as a genuine and uplifting account of triumphing over adversity, the Salt Path quickly rose to fame, first as a best-selling book and later as a blockbuster film featuring a windswept Gillian Anderson. While I personally didn't connect with it, I recognize that many found deep resonance in its romantic narrative, which, as the film's director Marianne Elliott described, depicts a couple being reformed by the elements of a rugged English coastline. Yet, if it seems implausible that a man facing terminal illness could be revitalized through a challenging hike that includes wild camping and unpredictable weather, it's worth noting that skilled storytellers often encourage their audience to suspend disbelief. Raynor Winn, the author of The Salt Path, certainly fits that description. However, one could argue that the story might be a bit too good to be true. According to a shocking report from The Observer, Raynor and her husband Moth are also known as Sally and Tim Walker, a couple who lost their home under circumstances that differ significantly from those described in the book. In their narrative, they claim to have become homeless after a well-intentioned investment in a friend's business went awry. However, the newspaper's investigation suggests that Raynor was accused of misappropriating funds from the small business where she worked as a bookkeeper. To cover the missing money, the couple allegedly secured a loan against their home, only to lose it when the loan was called in. Interestingly, The Observer also noted that they still owned a dilapidated property in France at that time. Medical professionals consulted by the paper have raised doubts about the claim that Tim lived for 12 years with corticobasal syndrome, a rare and debilitating brain disorder that typically has a fatal prognosis within 6 to 8 years. Among the various allegations against the couple, the most concerning is the potential to instill false hope in others suffering from similar conditions, suggesting they too could experience miraculous recovery simply by donning their hiking boots. Since memoirs rely heavily on authenticity and the promise of genuine experiences, even the slightest hint that the events may have been embellished feels like a betrayal to readers. In response, Raynor Winn labeled The Observer's article as highly misleading, stating, "We are seeking legal counsel and will not be providing further comments at this time." The Salt Path reveals the physical and spiritual journey that Moth and I undertook, an experience that completely transformed us and changed the trajectory of our lives. This is the authentic account of our journey. Regardless of the truth, this isn't the first memoir to face accusations of exaggeration, and it certainly won't be the last, especially given the public's insatiable appetite for truly remarkable emotional journeys, the genuine nature of which is inherently limited. While the publishing industry must address its due diligence, a more intriguing question remains: why are readers so eager to believe these narratives? The concept of embarking on a physical journey only to discover oneself at the journey's conclusion is as ancient as storytelling itself. However, the modern twist is that, unlike the epic tales of Odysseus and Iliads, today's narrators of these grand adventures are often women, who are less focused on slaying mythical beasts and more on confronting emotional struggles. If The Observer's claims hold any truth, perhaps this narrative should be viewed as a contemporary myth, one where readers acknowledge that the minotaurs may not be entirely real, yet still yearn to see them vanquished. The comforting premise of The Salt Path was not solely about overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges, but also about how the winds of walkers achieved this, thanks to the purported healing powers of nature, the compassion of those who offered them help, and ultimately, a community of readers who supported them in transforming their misfortunes into a commercial success. This narrative likely resonated even more in the wake of a pandemic, as many found comfort in solitary walks and the notion that, despite feeling isolated, they could still be part of something larger. Whatever the reasons, the story fulfilled a profound need for hope. It wouldn't be surprising if the demand for self-discovery narratives continues, regardless of what one finds at the end of this particular journey.